Lunch, wasn't it? Yeah, very good. Here's to lunch. Here we go. My name is Michael Russo. I'm with the County of San Diego. I'm also a member of the Board of Directors for NATOA, so welcome. It's been a great conference so far and many good days ahead. Today we're going to talk about news, or as my journalism professor at San Diego State used to say, news. It's like there's an I in there somewhere, I don't know. So today, again, we're talking about news, how we cover it, what we don't cover, and why. How do you find stories? How do you stack a newscast? What are the dangers of covering news and, in essence, competing against local channels in your community for those eyeballs? Today we have three great speakers with a lot of experience on this subject who work for organizations, and each of them approaches news in a little different way. Now, we have a little change from what was in the program. Elizabeth Billings from Charlotte County, Florida, is not able to make it because if you're familiar with Charlotte County, that is Fort Myers, which has certainly been in the news with Hurricane Irma. So I reached her this morning. Her community came through it okay, no major flooding, just some power outages, some debris. So she got very, very lucky with this storm. So Elizabeth, we're thinking about you. And coming in from the bullpen to take Elizabeth's place is fellow NATOA board member, Mr. Todd Barnes. Now, he brought his own cheering sections, okay. Todd is the communications director for Thornton, Colorado. He's been there for 17 years. Thornton is a little bit north of Denver, if you're wondering, and has a population of about 140,000. Todd is just finishing off his fourth year on the NATOA board. He's also the immediate past president of the Colorado Communications and Utility Alliance at CCUA. That is a NATOA chapter. Is that for all of Colorado? Mm-hmm. For the entire state? Okay, thank you. Let's see, before coming to Thornton, Todd worked in broadcast news and owned his own video production company, producing shows for Discovery Network, Home and Garden TV, Food Network, among others. So let's welcome Mr. Todd Barnes.
Thanks, Mike. First order of business, get the glasses on. So bear with me, I whipped this PowerPoint together without a whole lot of time, but I also have a great team of video people who got me some good stuff to share, and I'm looking forward to talking about our news philosophy. Having come from where's the clicker here? Here we go. Having come from a news background, when I was hired, we basically had no video presence in the city, so to speak, at all 17 years ago. And one of my missions has always been consistently to increase that and make a video the prime source. I don't know if any of you go to anything like the government social media conference that was in Dallas this year. They had some great speakers that came and talked about video, and that the reality is video is the present and the future for news delivery for cities. If you're not using video, you're going to be out of the game. And there were, unfortunately, a lot of people who think even on social media, just a text information thing is enough, and what I'm telling people is that's not enough anymore, and that if you're producing video news, you need to use that on every channel that you can find to make sure that you're cross-promoting and hitting all the eyeballs that you can, because we know the diverse environment that exists for people consuming news these days, and we have a lot to compete with. So if we're getting our message out, we got to be in the same arenas. One of the nice things, we have our own, many of us have our own cable channels. You got to utilize that. You got to let the PEG funds drive the capital that you use so that you can use your video in other ways on the internet. YouTube, we have our own YouTube channel. Streaming to mobile is critical. The one at the government social media conference, they talked about, I think it was the CIA that was actually there, talked about it's between 78 and 84% of people expect to be able to watch their video news on their mobile device. So that's kind of the reality that we're heading towards in all of our investments in our news production and video production are going in that direction now. And that includes social media. If you find a way to post it, you got to post it to social media. You're just covering the bases. One of the important things that we are doing in Thornton is we're making sure to integrate video. Well, we're integrating all of our communications into video. So we currently produce news in a variety of different ways that we get the information out. We still have a lot of print, and print will be here for different generations of people who consume information differently. But the one thing I'm telling people is that you have to integrate everything into video. A perfect example of this is my first video that I'm going to play, which shows what I mean by integrating all of our communications into video.
Welcome to TNET, the City of Thornton's information network, providing residents and businesses with multiple communications platforms for receiving the news that is important to them. With print, television, electronic, and social media, TNET casts a wide network of information sources that are easily available to all. Via cable television, Thornton Channel 8 provides people a view of City Council and the important policy decisions shaping their community, as well as valuable informational programs. City Voice newspaper comes directly into homes 6 times per year with the latest news and events. The Thornton Activities Guide brings information on fitness, fun, arts, and cultural opportunities to residents of all ages. Thornton's digital pipeline brings cityofthornton.net, the web portal providing all access to in-depth information on city services, events, and news. Thornton Connected is a 24/7 portal to City Hall. Accessible online or via mobile device, residents can communicate directly to city staff on a wide range of issues. BusinessinThornton.com is the destination for businesses in Thornton or operations looking to locate in Thornton to find vital information to make their operations successful. ThorntonWater.com provides residents with important water conservation tips pertinent for Colorado's arid climate. T-Alerts, Thornton's email alert service, provides direct notification on select emergency situations and 14 other topics. Timely information updates throughout the day can be found on Thornton's social media platforms on Facebook and Twitter. The City of Thornton understands people receive their information in many different ways these days. At home or on the go, people want to be informed. TNET is there to meet your needs.
So that was basically what, it was basically like a promo for our department in many respects. But what we're trying to do is educate people about all the different channels they can get the news from the city. I don't want to have it just reside within a newscast. We do a newscast. But we wanted to be able to show our city council and our residents how quickly they can access through one of the many channels that we offer news. Moving on to our video news, I would call us semi-traditional news program, in that, as you'll see in a second, you know, we have hosts and we do packages and we do voiceovers and we do graphics. But one of the primary focus was to get buy-in for all of our video operations and just make sure that we had a recap of city council and something where somebody didn't have to watch a whole meeting. So they could find out what the pertinent things happened without having to watch the whole meeting. Because one of the biggest comments we always get is, I don't have time to watch a whole city council meeting. So we were just trying to make it very accessible. But one of the challenges is we have no studio space to do this. So we had to start thinking a little bit out of the box. We didn't want to be in the field exclusively. There was a lot of time and effort to get the equipment to different places. So we had to come up with a better solution. And the next one is going to show what our solution was, and I'll follow it up here with a little bit more explanation in a second, but we developed our show called Thornton 360.
Right now on Thornton 360, City Council recognizes the retiring city manager.
Your chance to become a weather spotter and help keep your community safe.
It's spring cleaning time, how Click and Haul can help. Thornton 360 starts right now. Hello and welcome to Thornton 360. I'm Lisa Wilson.
And I'm Todd Barnes. Thanks for joining us. We start this edition of Thornton 360 with a look back at the last City Council meeting. The March 7th meeting was the last official City Council meeting for City Manager Jack Etheridge. Council took the opportunity to recognize Mr. Etheridge for his service to the Thornton community for the last 32 years.
Mayor and council, thank you very much for
Okay, that's good.
recognizing me on my retirement.
As much as I like
City
Jack
Day.
and miss him, I'm not going to subject you to hearing his long goodbye that he did, but it was quite nice and quite appropriate. But that's now you get the idea what I mean by a traditional news show. It was cold open, basically some anchors, and then tossing you some packages. But for us, it's a model that works. We can keep the show relatively short, right, or make it as long as we want, which is one of the benefits of having a PEG channel. But I would say in general, our news programs are in the 12-minute range, Adam? Is that about right? 12 to 15. And we try to keep it to that because we want people to be able to, we do want people to be able to watch it on their mobile. We want them to have the time to invest to get as much of the news that we can give them. And we do it at a much quicker pace to generally get as much of the stories. It's not just a headline show. I mean, we have some good information, a little bit more in depth. But for us, Thornton 360 is working. In the last 2 years, our viewership is up over, and the video that we're serving to the community is up over 1,000%. The number of hits that we get on our programming, we also embed it on our homepage for the city's main web page. So we're just getting a ton of traffic, and it's gotten very popular, and people actually call and ask, when's the next one coming up? So it's been successful. Let me show you how we went about designing the set so that we could actually produce this show and solve the no set problem.
Lisa and I have been getting some questions about where in City Hall our studio is actually located. Well, I'm here to tell you that our studio is all TV magic.
Here's a look at what it takes to create our studio for Thornton 360.
We built the digital set in-house from scratch and combined that with some video we shot from the roof of the building. Then we set up all of our equipment to green screen Lisa and I into our virtual studio, which is a process all in its own.
The benefits of caffeine for your staff can be seen here. We use a NewTek TriCaster to green screen the whole production. Does it take about 30 minutes to set up, Adam? About 30 minutes to get this all set
Pretty
up.
neat.
That is. That's it for this edition of Thornton 360. I'm Todd Barnes.
And I'm Lisa Wilson. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
So anyway, that's the story behind our news show and how we managed to get that done. We do it the day after every council meeting, so it usually runs for about 2 weeks. That's about as often with the level of staffing we have that we can get something like that done too. But like I said, it's been very successful. I think an important thing to tell you is that having come from a news background, I operate my communications division much like a news operation in that we have somebody who does assignments, we do project meetings, we talk about what our next videos are, what kind of a video we have, and being nimble is very much important to us. While we're not going to be the source, we know we're not going to be the source for breaking news, but we want to be able to provide a level of service with video news as quickly as we can. One of the things that we've had to do, well, actually, you know what? That fourth video, go ahead and play that fourth video and I will better explain this.
Hello and welcome to Thornton 360. I'm Todd Barnes.
And I'm Lisa Wilson.
Coming up, an update on the Thornton Triceratops dig.
Thornton 360 starts right now.
Okay, you can stop it there. So this happened 2 weeks ago. We're building a public safety building, and one of the construction crews hit something. He said, one of the construction guys said, you know, that's not dirt. I don't know what that is exactly, but it's not dirt. And he called somebody over and they said, you know, we better get somebody out to look at it. Well, it's a bone. Well, you dig a little bit more, and it's a big bone. And it's bigger and bigger and bigger, and sure enough, it is, in fact, a Triceratops. So that was found while constructing our public safety, fire building, and police substation. So that has been an interesting news story in itself, very positive, and challenging at the same time because it's a construction site. It's not on the edge of the construction site, it is right in the middle of the construction site. So we all decided we wanted to do the right thing. The city wanted to do the right thing. We call the state archaeologist, we call the museum. We tell them, we need your help with this. They came out, they started digging, and one of the challenges we had is that all the broadcast stations start to find out about this, and they want access. They want in there. One of them flies a drone over us. And that's a whole story in of itself. But we decided that we were going to make another effort to get the news out, in that we basically designated ourselves as the pool, the video pool camera. And so we stood up our own webpage, our own file transfer place, and we decided this is how the local news is getting the information about this find, so that we don't have to have them trouncing around, further delaying the construction. The construction's already going to be about 2 to 3 weeks behind at this point. Could be more. But I would say the advantage to this is, in this process, is that we have learned that the broadcasters are willing to do this. They have loved the video we've given them, and they said, you know, what a great partnership in that you understand the job we have to do, and we're getting the information out to the people that need the information. We're getting the publicity about this as well. But the partnerships that are being formed, and the trust and the credibility that we've been gaining, have been great. Can you click on that link down there? Oop. Oh, it's supposed to be .net. Sorry. Cash parking. So this is the web page. We literally stood up very quickly and started doing a timeline. Now, if you go down a little bit farther, so this is where we have a Hightail account where we're making all the video accessible for the stations to use. And I got to tell you, it's been very popular and very successful. It's tailed off recently, but we had a lot of people downloading video files at first. So I would just say, when you go about thinking about being a news provider, don't just think about your shows. Think about the different ways that you can get the information out, whether you own it or control it or not. But in general, we've had a lot of success in this venture so far. So I hope that gives you some idea on a shortened presentation by myself here about how we go about doing video production and video news in the city of Thornton. Thanks.
Okay, next up we have Mr. Randy Simpson. Randy is the Television and Cable Services Supervisor for the city of Aurora, Colorado, carrying on the Colorado theme today. He's worked there for more than 30 years, and Randy has done everything, all facets of TV production, videography, editing, writing, producing. The station's flagship program, Aurora News Weekly, has received multiple awards from NATOA over the years, both as part of overall station excellence and as best news series. In addition to production, Randy is also responsible for cable channel management, managing web-based video delivery services and cable franchise administration. He is currently president of CCUA, the NATOA chapter here in Colorado. Randy is a proud Colorado native and holds degrees from both the University of Colorado and Metropolitan State University. Mr. Randy Simpson.
One item of business, Todd needs his phone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael, I appreciate that. So first of all, before I start, how many people out there have a news show of some kind out there? Most of you, good. So, you know, I guess based on my introduction, I am kind of the old man in the business. I've been doing news, municipal television, municipal news for 31 years. So, seen it all. I remember back in the 80s when we were doing news, we reported things like the tons of asphalt that we were using to fill how many potholes in the city of Aurora. Riveting news, I got to tell you. So. Really grabbed people's, but that's kind of what we knew. And I didn't have a broadcast background. I really came from corporate television, corporate video production before that. And we didn't have any professional broadcasters on our staff. And so it was an eye-opening experience when we started hiring, or I started hiring broadcasters to see our news get elevated over the years. But before I you know, talk about news, I think, you know, producing government news, as you see, I put the brackets around that because I stopped thinking about the government news and started thinking about something else, and that's going to be community news, which we'll hear a lot about. So, but really the bigger issue that we all face for our news shows every day, increasingly every day, especially with the millennials and younger generations coming up, is really how do we compete for a few minutes of eyeball time against hundreds of cable channels and billions of online videos. That's our issue every day, and so I think news, one thing I have learned is that every one of you should be doing news a little differently based on your community. I think your community should drive your news. And really the deep content, if you're a community news producer, if you're going to have a unique product that's out there, it should be based on what your community is all about. So a little bit about Aurora, just real quick, and you kind of see how this fits together. But we're the 55th largest city in the United States by population. We're actually larger than Denver in land size, and we're growing more rapidly in terms of population. But we're economically diverse and growing. Medicine, research, aerospace, defense is part of what makes up Aurora. Culturally diverse. We have 186 languages spoken in our schools. So it's quite a challenge for our 3 districts. We cover 3 counties. We're a city, but we're straddling 3 counties. So we have extreme diversity in our city. So it's pretty interesting. The Census Bureau sees Aurora as the Aurora-Denver metro area. That's really important. You know, we're the third largest city in Colorado. So the Census Bureau really sees us as the Aurora-Denver metro area. Much of my friends in Denver probably may or may not know that, but it's true. And the Denver broadcast stations, who are all based in Denver, they like to come out to Aurora when, of course, there's negative news. That seems to attract them like moths to a street light. So that's kind of the thing that we face. And so, you know, it really does create a distorted perception about our community. You know, and those distorted perceptions have a lot of ramifications. So when we are doing our news show, we think about that all the time. We do have the saying about our news, you know, at the end of our show, which I'll talk about in a second, but people should feel better and uplifted and empowered by watching our news. We do no service to create fear. We know there's lots of positive stories which the broadcast stations are going to ignore by and large. We need to counter those distortions in our news show. If people walk away from that half-hour news show and don't feel uplifted, we do a traditional newscast. It's live to tape. Sometimes we go live with it. Some of us, if we're not moved to tears or feelings of proud about our community, then certainly our viewers aren't. So regularly there are tears in our newsroom when we're doing our news show, because we do stories, you'll hear in a minute about people-centered stories. That's what it's all about. So we provide a product that the broadcasters won't or can't. They simply don't know Aurora as well as we do. And we also do play to our strengths. We do know Aurora, and as Todd was talking about, we share our footage regularly. We control the message. A lot of times they won't come out, but we have relationships with all the broadcast stations. We call their assignment editors or news directors and say, hey, we have some footage of X. We can push that out there and control the message, and it's been very, very successful. So I really encourage that. I think that that's something we discovered several years ago. Unfortunately, we discovered it during a big tragedy, the theater shooting in Aurora. But we provided all the footage for that. We provided the feed for the world that day as well. I was manning that camera when it happened and happened to have to be careful because the whole world was watching that camera during our memorial service for the 720, and I was crying. So to make sure I wasn't shaking on the tripod, unfortunately, it was a difficult day, but we provided all that footage for that, and we learned to have that relationship. So talking about our brand of community news. Again, each of your communities are of course going to be different, but our brand is really about our weekly newscast. We do a 30-minute traditional show. It has segments that are just traditional news segments, but we also are constantly thinking about social media. I know all of you are, that's the big deal. But we actually edit segments down specifically. The same segment will be edited for social media. You know, the upload sizes and seconds on both Twitter and Facebook, for example, they'll have constraints. What we've learned is listen to those constraints, upload the native video, let Twitter or Facebook own it, and your hits will go up tremendously. So that was a lesson that we learned dramatically. So, Oliver, if you'll play that first video, and I'll tell you about this video.
People don't call 911 to say hi to us. 1, 2, 3. They call 911 because there's an emergency.
I think everybody probably remembers back to when they were first hired in the recruitment process, so it's something that still, sticks in the back of my mind.
Physically putting our body through the academy was a little bit challenging, but you adapt to it and you overcome it.
We're very busy, which is something that I was looking for when I got hired on.
You never know what you're going to get from day to day.
Unit 201.
It's a high call volume, so you'll get a lot of experience.
When I came in, I rode with the Aurora Fire Department. That was kind of that clicking moment. I was like, this is something I want to pursue.
Stay still, all right?
Really the best part about what I do is helping somebody on their worst day of their life.
I was in an EMT class and just fell in love with the fire service.
When you come here to the city of Aurora, you have a lot of avenues you can go. You could be an engineer, you could be a paramedic.
And we have specialty hazmat units, special wildland units.
There's lots of opportunities for advancement.
We're competitive as far as pay and benefits. I knew that Aurora Fire was where I wanted to be.
This is our second family. We're all drawn to the fire service because we feel it in our hearts to serve.
If it's something that you're passionate about, Aurora Fire is a great place to utilize those skills.
It's a lot easier to make your decision when you're able to come out and see exactly how Aurora's ran.
Thank you, Oliver. So I bring that video up because our fire department wanted to do a story about their needs for recruitment. And we also knew that they wanted to use something on social media, and we thought of this. We came up with this idea. It was exactly 1 minute and 30 seconds long. They expected to run for a month before they got enough recruitments for the next class. Within 3 days, it had 60,000 hits, and so they pulled the video down because they had enough to fill the next 3 recruitments. So what we learned was the power of social media. That was owned up there by Twitter, and it also on Facebook, and it was enormously successful. So during our weekly production meetings, we talk about strategic planning for social media. When are we going to post? What are we going to post? Every day of the week, and we have your social media calendar. If you're not doing that on a strategic basis, figure out times of day, vary it, figure out what's going to be edited specifically for which social media. I would really recommend that. Strong community focus. Again, you have to make those partnerships, relationships with community. If you don't have a first name basis with the PIOs, with the communications directors of every major organization in your city, then you should do that right away when you get back. We do. That's where our stories come from. We have to have those relationships. They're people-centered stories. I think I talked about that before. Who is affected? Why should I care? And I'm going to show you an example of that. Professional video storytellers. I can't emphasize that enough. We've seen some great storytelling. We know Michael comes from a tradition of that. We've seen some amazing videos from San Diego County, city and county, right? County. So, but the last hires that I've made personally are all storytellers. That's my first criteria. I'm going to give you an example of someone that was not a videographer or an editor or a talent, but she has become that, and she's an amazing person. I'm going to show you an example. Multimedia journalists make sure they can do it all. It really helps when you're doing your weekly production meetings to know I can assign anybody to that story because they can all do it all, and it makes the flexibility awesome. You don't have to match up videographers. I know it seems like a tall task, but as you have a chance to develop new staff and hire new staff and think about your own development, if that's what you do, think about being in that all-in-one package. It's an awesome experience, and it's really enriching the careers of the people who have been involved. So personalized visual storytelling, stories about people, not programs, Programs affect people, and that's why we care. That's why we want to watch the news. It's about people. And so even if it's a program, there's a program about us painting streets, but we turned it into a story about a person, but still tell the story of the mural. Go ahead and hit it, Oliver.
I got tired of creating art.
What better way than through the eyes of the artist? So we turn our stories about programs into people's stories. Let's go to the next slide. Oops, I got the clicker. All right. So who was the journalist that worked on that? That was Alexis Kikoan. So again, she wrote that, and as much as it was, but she was a visual storyteller, and so Alexis did that. You'll see some more of her stuff later on in this conference. So here's an idea. We never had parking meter maids, as they call them some places, but it could be a really negative story. Hey, we're going to start giving you tickets if you park in certain places. So here was a way that we showed a story that could have been negative and turned a personal face on it. We'll show as much as we can. I've got about 6 minutes left of my own stuff. Go ahead and roll it, Oliver.
It's a new program here in Aurora that is safe, convenient, and affordable. But how does Park Aurora
tastes of those. So that could have been negative. We turned it about the person who's collecting the tickets. Seems positive. And I think, those are the kinds of things that we hear all the time. Thank you for telling me about. It used to be, why are they doing that? Why are new parking meters? But turn it into a positive, make it personalized about the person collecting the. So here's another kind of seemingly mundane story. Our Parks Department, Pros Department came to us and said, hey, you know what, our groundskeepers never get any note. Can you tell about our grounds? Well, the grounds at golf courses are not all that fun to talk about. They're kind of cool if you love to talk about grass and trees, but let's talk about the people keeping it green. Let's go ahead and roll that, Oliver.
5 a.m. comes bright and early each and every day.
And while you're hitting the snooze button, there is a green team that's really roughing it.
Aurora TV's Matt Peterson gets up at the crack of dawn to check it out.
It's 5 a.m. at Aurora Hills Golf Course. Dark, breezy, and peaceful.
Love working outside. There's not many things that can compare.
But at 5:30,
Don't use the mower that's outside, use the one that's in the building.
the summer air sings a different tune. Kevin Callis,
The joys of morning golf course work here.
and his band of mowers are released.
We start at 5:30 in the morning. We get out the gate right away, try to beat the golfers, mow greens, fairways, tees, approaches, rough, as fast as we can, just so that we're not in the way. I learned to play golf here back as a kid.
Callis, the course superintendent, grew up on these fairways.
This is the first place I beat my dad, played high school golf here, so it's just kind of been my home away from my home growing up, and something that I absolutely love to do.
He knows the best views.
When the sun goes Bronco orange on us, you know it's going to be a good day.
To the cuts of the greens.
Daily maintenance at its finest right there.
Callis is in charge of making this 140-acre par 72 course beautiful.
If anything, ensures consistency.
From the speed.
I noticed one fairway is kind of dry, but the rest of the course seems fine. I can just turn up that one fairway.
To monitoring the water systems.
My office, every day is different. I think that's probably my number one reason why I love this job. Every day you go out, the canvas changes, the turf changes, the weather changes, attitudes change. Every day is just something different, different challenge.
And he's got the tools and the staff to help. Fairway mowers,
Zoom it in a little bit.
cut cutters. This clown car looking thing, it's actually called a green roller, and this teenager makes it look a lot easier to drive than it actually is.
It's not full throttle, so it'll move slow. So now straighten. Try not to turn the wheel the other way you're going now. That way, there you go.
That's tough.
Isn't it? It's,
That's
yeah.
a lot harder than it looks.
A good staff's huge. I mean, they make me and my assistant look good. Being good leaders, showing them what needs to be done the right way, and kind of, I guess, staying on top of them and making sure that they realize what the end result goal is.
All so we can enjoy the course and sink our putts.
Or get lucky once in a while.
You become attached to the golf course a little.
So again, it could have been about golf courses, but it was about the people taking care of those golf courses. And so the last thing I want to show you is this is a young woman who came to us years ago as a volunteer actually at our station, but she was in between jobs. She had worked a couple of the broadcast affiliates, volunteered for us. She was a great writer, a great storyteller, had never touched a camera, never touched an editing, never been on camera. She's very shy. We said, you know, Yasmin, you have to do it all if we're going to elevate you into the organization. And so here's one of the recent stories she did. Go ahead and roll it, Oliver.
We're so excited today. We're hosting our very first Backpack-a-thon event at our facility here in Aurora.
Pencils, notepads, erasers, even hand sanitizers. Everything a kid needs for school and much more.
We have over 300 Staples associates who are volunteering their time along with Erica Ray's kids to stuff 5,000 backpacks with 110,000 school supplies for kids in need.
It's hard for a kid to start school without these items. So it's built self-esteem. It makes them want to go to school. They're eager to start school.
Patty Heyman is the president and founder of Erica Ray's Kids.
She took care of everybody. There were no strangers in her life.
Erica Ray was Patty's youngest daughter. She died in a car accident one day after her 22nd birthday.
When she passed away, there was 8 construction bags filled with clothes that didn't belong to her in her apartment. Her truck was filled with toys and books. I just did what she did in just a bigger way.
I have boys. We can afford supplies, but I know how tough
it is for other kids.
I'm pretty excited. I mean, it's crazy, right? 2,400 backpacks goes to Erica Ray's kids. It's pretty amazing.
All of those backpacks will go to Aurora Public School students, while the rest will help needy kids in other local districts.
The backpacks don't just contain the essentials like notebooks, markers, and pencils. They also have a very special note inside for each student.
These inspirational messages were...
So my point about Yasmin was she is a storyteller, and we turned her in to be able to shoot, edit, and she was using GoPros, using Sony cameras, Panasonic, you name it. We have lots of tools, but the idea is that we hire storytellers that tell stories about people. And with that, there's our web address if you want to see more of our stories, and thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Randy. Next up is Megan Hutton. She's the executive producer for Pierce County Television, all the way from Tacoma. She produces Pierce County News, an award-winning weekly newscast, and hosts the monthly public affairs show Pierce County Talks. She also oversees special video projects for Pierce County and other government agencies. Megan came to PCTV in 2004 with an Emmy from King 5 Evening Magazine. She holds a bachelor's degree in broadcast journalism from Pacific Lutheran, serves as secretary on the executive board for WATOA, the NATOA chapter here in Washington. Ms. Megan Hutton.
Good afternoon. All right, so just to give you a sense of what I'm going to share with you today, there's a couple things I'm going to focus on. The first is workflow, gathering stories, and kind of the evolution of TV news. So let's go ahead and get started. We've been producing Pierce County News since 2005. Most of that content is focused on Pierce County and 6 cities that we serve. We have about 500,000 cable subscribers, and Pierce County has a population of over 800,000 people. It's the second largest county in our state, to kind of give you a snapshot of who we are. Let's see, I got the clicker right here. There we go. So a little bit about the show. It is a weekly newscast. We do on average about 45 to 48 original newscasts a year out of 52 weeks. On average right now, we do about 17 to 20 minutes is the show. We don't hit a hard specific time. We have that luxury. We air on Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. We also air at 7:30 a.m. plus filler times on our channel. We like that time because we don't feel like we compete with the local broadcast stations now. Currently kind of the latest dinner time newscast in the Seattle market is now 7 o'clock to 7:30. So we are trying to hit that Jeopardy audience for us. To give you a sense of where we put this newscast, it airs on 4 different channels, and that includes, like we operate the City University Places channel out of our station. We provide it to City of Auburn, so there's kind of 4 places that it's on the air. We put it on our own Pierce County Television website. It's on our mobile app, on demand, with both Comcast and Click, which is a local provider within the city of Tacoma, and on Facebook and on Twitter. And just to give you a sense, we tape the show in the studio and we edit it together in post. We don't really kind of have enough hands-on folks to do it live. Here's just kind of a look at staffing a little bit so you get a sense of kind of the workflow of how we're making this show work every single week. So to give you a sense, there's 6 of us full-time production folks in-house. 2 of us are kind of quote-unquote full-time on Pierce County News. And I'm going to equivalent that to saying that's about 3.5 to 4 days a week. Greg is the director in the studio, the main videographer, editor, and graphics. I'm the executive producer. That includes scheduling all the shoots, writing and reporting half the show. But there are 5 staff members who support this show in very important roles. That includes Matt. It's a picture when that first slide was up. Matt is the anchor of the show. He works 1 day a week as a reporter and writing half the show. And then he is here for about 3 hours on Wednesdays anchoring, and that includes his prep time before we tape. Ben spends 2 to 3 hours a week on graphics and After Effects. Sue spends 4 hours a week updating our website, YouTube, and scheduling the channel with Pierce County News. Dave Kelman is a backup shooter and editor as needed, and that could be as often as weekly or a couple times a month. Same with Dave Hinman as a backup producer and reporter as needed. Here's kind of a workflow chart to kind of put that in a visual form for you. So I'll kind of talk through in order from top to bottom. So if I look at my week in the newscast, we'll start from Monday. That's a day that I am responsible for going out on any shoots that we have. That could be no shoots at all. That could be 1 shoot, 2 shoot. We usually can fit a maximum of 3 shoots, and that's a pretty busy day. Tuesday, I'll spend time writing and going through that footage on Monday and also Tuesday. As the executive producer, I'm responsible for all of the content of the show. So whatever stories Matt goes on, you can see Matt's third down there. That's a really busy day for him. He's also going out on shoots and writing the stuff that he's shot. And so I'm not only writing the material that I'm responsible for, but then I look over everything that Matt writes, and that includes, I also write all the teases, the promos, all the other kind of filler stuff of the newscast. And so the difference between the blue and the green, if you can't see down below, blue is kind of spending at least half of our day on the newscast. Green is a really busy day. That's a full 7 to 8 hours of our day on the show, typically. And on Wednesdays in the morning, we tape the show at 10 a.m. We have an on-set guest segment. We have the guest arrive at 10 a.m. so we can shoot the show out of order. We tape the guests first and get them out. That way we can have them arrive at a set time. We don't have them hanging around. And then when they leave, we'll go back and shoot the show top to bottom. So Wednesdays are Wednesdays are a busy day until about lunchtime. And on Thursdays, I spend that day getting all my content together for the next show and making calls on stories and getting things lined up. And Friday, you'll see the small X's for Greg and I. Fridays are a day where we may have shoots for news, but we may not. If we leave it open, that's a day where we can work on other projects and other assignments. So you'll see for Greg, he's busy shooting whatever stories are scheduled on Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday and Thursday are his really busy days because we're in the studio all morning on Wednesday, and then the rest of Wednesday and Thursday is editing the show. Matt is only with us 1.5 days a week there, and then Ben's busiest day is doing the graphics, because once we go into taping in the studio, all the graphics are pretty much locked in. We don't have a lot of changes after that, so Ben can work on the graphics at that point. And then Sue's job doesn't happen until Thursday, because she's all post-production. That's all getting it up on the web. And let's go ahead. I'm going to show you I have 3 videos for you today, and my goal in the videos that I'm showing as examples from our newscast are kind of 3 packages that we've done with kind of that government focus. And this one is a story that we did with our sheriff's department. It's kind of that public safety story where we want to try to hit those characters, but also show kind of the humanity of government and the services that we provide.
Coming up on Pierce County News.
It gets very, very rough out here.
Right along with the patrol on Lake Tapps. Home values go up an average of 12%. And a new playground in Puyallup. Hi, and welcome to Pierce County News. I'm Matt Samsel. Lake Tapps is one of the most beautiful lakes in eastern Pierce County, with a great view of Mount Rainier. It's popular with boaters, but controlling all that traffic on the lake is a full-time job in the summer. And that's the job of the Pierce County Sheriff's Marine Services Unit, which has 20 deputies to patrol 10 lakes. Greg McClellan takes us on a ride.
We're looking for anybody that is not going too fast close to shore or other boats.
We're looking for registration decals to see if they're current. That's a big ticket, $257 if you're expired.
Patrolling the water is a lot like patrolling on land.
We're going to take you to Fairweather Cove. That was one of the big partying areas where people would misbehave when they were intoxicated.
The Pierce County Sheriff Marine Patrol Unit has a lot of ground to cover on Lake Tapps.
We used to sit a boat here and watch all the people rafting and partying and try to keep control of it with 50, 60, 100 boats in here if it's a warm day. Now it's pretty much empty.
These people pay a lot of money and they live on the lake and they don't want to be bothered by these people partying.
But most of the time, they're not handing out tickets. It's more education than it is enforcement.
Just telling people what the laws and the rules are, because they've grown up on the water and they just don't know anymore, and things evolve and they don't keep up to date on it.
They've seen too many accidents and collisions on the water.
Good, yourself? Good.
I'm Sergeant Brian Ward. This is Deputy Chad Fox. We stopped because you looked like you were within 100 feet of that boat.
Okay.
You do have to stay 100 feet back when you're jumping wakes.
Yes, sir.
A quick contact is an opportunity to make sure it's a safe, fun day on the lake for everyone.
If he was pulling a skier, how far back do you have to be jump wakes?
Probably 500.
300 feet.
Today, it's just a reminder.
On any given Saturday or Sunday on the weekend in the
That's kind of a snapshot. We'll stop it there. But that's an example of a kind of a typical package that could lead off the newscast. There you go. Let's talk a little bit about what's your filing system. One of my big things as an executive producer is you have to be organized if you're going to be doing a newscast, even if it's daily, weekly. You need to know how you're going to organize all the information that you're going to be gathering. It's a lot. So here, this is just an example of the system that works for me. I have a file cabinet and I have a show folder for every single newscast of the year. I think it's important so you don't lose good ideas. If I get emails from people, press releases, my own sticky notes from a phone call, I have a place to put that. If someone sends me something and it's not going to happen for 2 months, there's no way that I'm going to remember. I have that email hanging out in my inbox most of the time. But if I can file it, if I can print it out and file it, if you want to create an email folder system, you could do that too. But just a way to put that information somewhere. I love that when I go to start working on the next newscast, I literally pull out the folder for the next week and I'm not starting from scratch. I have at least 2 to 3 story ideas already in there, and it gives me a great ground to kind of work from. At the end of the week, when I'm done with the show, I throw the final script in there. And one of the things that's really fun for award season, it's kind of hard to see in the picture, but I star folders. So if in that show there was a great news package, it was a great episode as a whole, I'll star it. And then when it comes time to award season, you get that email from Nato and you're like, right? Trying to hunt through like a whole year's worth of content. I open up my file cabinet and I look at all the stars, and that work is done for me. Some ideas for finding stories, like this question a lot. Things like utilize your communications department if you have one. If not, are there PR people within different departments or divisions of your city or county government? Those are folks who usually kind of know what's happening behind the scenes. They can warn you if there are landmines, like political landmines. They can give you a heads up that, hey, 3 weeks from now, the county executive is gonna present his budget to the county council. Well, that's a story that I'm gonna wanna cover. And we're already shooting that meeting coverage. I can pull it out and the story is already done for me. I can make a sticky note, pop it in my folder for 3 weeks out. And when I pull that folder out, I already know it's one of my stories for the week. Make friends with the key holders. Those are the people that could be a department director, that could be an economic development person, the people that you can rely on to make quick phone calls if you need access for something. If it's snow and ice season and a big storm comes in and I want to get access to someone very quickly, I can make a phone call to Bruce Wagner in the road division because we've developed a great rapport over years. I have his cell phone number, I can call him very quickly, and he will get me access when I can't get a hold of anybody else. Keep prized information. If you get someone's personal cell phone number, If you, in getting to know them over time doing interviews, you find out that they have 2 little kids, or they're retiring in Hawaii, or all these little random bits of personal information about people, I kind of lock that away because that's information I can pull back out. The next time I see Denise Dyer with Economic Development and I know she's 2 years away from retiring and her husband already has the house on Hawaii, do you think when I'm miking her up, I'm gonna have that conversation about, hey, how's Hawaii going? When are you going next? I can build that personal connection with her. It gives us something to talk about. And people learn to kind of trust you more. I can do a better economic development story if I have a better relationship with Denise over the long run. And it's little tricks like that that I use to kind of build that rapport with people. Especially we had a council member in years past who was really a difficult person to work with, but I found out that he had a niece and nephew that he adored. And so every single time I came to do an interview with him to break the ice, I'd ask about his niece and nephew. The personal phone call still is excellent in this world of email and texting. Sometimes leaving that voicemail or making that personal phone call can still speak volumes. Follow your own people on social media. A lot of times I find, you kind of go through these waves where you get frustrated, where you find out a department had some really big thing happen, right? Or nobody told you. I can't believe they didn't let us know about that. We're on the same team. And what we have to learn is that it's just that everybody's busy as well. And we're not always in the forefront of their mind. They don't think to call us. But if I follow them on social media, it doesn't matter, whatever your city is using, I get the best story ideas from that now because they will post stuff on social media that they forget to call and tell me about or email me about. So I have started to follow, our emergency management, the sheriff's department, and public works, and the parks and rec department, and everything else I follow, or other key agencies or organizations in our community. And I kind of have a special rule about shoot a story, gain a story. So if I'm out with Bruce Wagner and Road Division and we're doing a story about their snow and ice day, while I'm out on location shooting something with him already, before we leave that shoot, I'm gonna say to him, hey, in the next 1 to 2 months, is there anything coming up that's really important that we can do another story on? And almost always we walk away with another story idea. So I'm shooting a story and I'm gaining a story for a later date. Oh, and I was gonna mention too that one quick thing is that most of us are covering council meetings. That's kind of our bread and butter. You're already covering that content. You already have that video in hand. So every week, looking at the agenda for the council meetings, seeing what they're covering, and if it's something you've already got, you can easily pull, a minute nugget out of that council meeting. To show an example of how relationship building can create a story for you, this is a story that we did about the Puyallup Woodcarvers. It's at a senior center in the city of Puyallup, which is one of the cities that we do video production for. Bob Reiler in Pierce County Human Services sent me an email one day, not even part of Puyallup, and he says, hey, have you ever heard what the seniors at the senior center are doing with the wood carving program? And I was like, sounds like a Nat Pop story to me. So I made a phone call, and this is a story that's up for a NATOA award this year.
Wood carving takes time and patience, and the vision to see what a piece of wood can be. Megan Hutton introduces us to a group of seniors who show us you're never too old to take up carving.
I might be the oldest one, but they're the experts. This seat was the bottom of the list.
And he came, he had to sit there.
And so I arrived at the bottom.
Age is just a number in this group.
I can't do anything else.
1 day a week, give my wife a break. You're laughing, I'm serious.
I actually took a test when I was about 50, and they said I came out as a carpenter.
They're not as rambunctious as the sewing group.
Yes, sometimes there's not a bit of noise in here, not one bit of conversation.
Because their hands do all the talking.
You gotta have a sharp knife because if you listen, you can hear it cut through the wood, you know.
The wood carving group at the Puyallup Activity Center really knows how to live on the edge.
One thing we do have, Band-Aids. You have to have Band-Aids.
And there's Band-Aids, and there's super glue. It burns like hell, but it stops the bleeding.
Each person brings in their own tools and wood. Bill is carving a meeting gavel out of butternut to look like Disney's Ursula in The Little Mermaid.
At least I'm trying to. She's proving difficult.
Woodcarvers Illustrated is my favorite.
90-year-old Margaret has a thing for Santas.
And I had a pattern that looked so easy. I can do that, you know. When I picked up the piece of wood and tried to do it, it wasn't quite as easy as I thought.
Charles likes to give away comfort birds.
And if it needs to be a little bit smoother, you take a deer horn. You take the deer horn and you rub it like this.
And Ron's up for anything.
I just saw a picture in a magazine about this. I thought, oh, that looks kind of neat.
Ask why these seniors come every Thursday, and it's about much more than a hobby. The reasons are as diverse as the group.
It's very relaxing, and you can create something.
So that was a really fun piece. Lots of great nat sound to play with. Let's talk a little bit about kind of changing with the times. A couple weeks from now, our station is going to have a really key discussion at a staff meeting where we're going to be looking across all the shows that we do and all the programming about why we do what we do, how shows look, how they're structured, how long they are. Kind of taking a deep dive into, we've kind of, you know, you can hit kind of that rut after a handful of years where your shows have looked the same for a while. In all kinds of ways. That's how the show's written, how the show's edited, what the sets look like, how you shoot it, that we get comfortable. And we're at this crossroads where we kind of need to have that honest conversation with ourselves about, is it time to kind of change things up? And not just changing things for the sake of changing, but being really just kind of honest and see what we want to do. So one of the things that we're going to be considering is that our analytics from YouTube show us that no matter what kind of program we are producing, if it's a newscast, if it's a sit-down talk show, our average watch time is 1:45, which is just staggering. It doesn't matter if it's a 30-minute show. And so it's a reality that we have to face, especially if we push more to social. We do break out all of our shows right now, so we provide people with a link to the whole show, but they can also watch every individual story, and we make that available to put on social media. So we want to continue doing social breakouts. I'm almost certain that's going to be part of the mix. But making sure that we're kind of changing up the variety of packages, VOSOTs, VOs, and maybe a guest segment that we have in the show. You know, do we decrease some of the VOSOTs that we have and maybe keep a package, but maybe add the number of VOs so that the time the show, the flow of the show goes a little faster? And then just thinking about things like when I watch a lot of Seattle broadcast news right now, I call it the stand, sit, and chat, where you have people, you know, we don't just sit at a desk anymore when I watch local broadcasts. And I think that's something that TV government news could adopt. You don't just sit anymore. You might sit for part of it, and then you go to a package and you come back and now they're standing next to a monitor, and then you're gonna go to another story, and then all of a sudden we're gonna have an on-site guest, but we're gonna stand and chat. And instead of just sitting there the whole time, that's something we may really think about. And then lastly, just really being thoughtful about creating the content that we need, kind of what everybody's already talked about in the panel, that are you meeting the needs of your community? What Colorado may do is different than what Pierce County needs. So that's it.
Thank you, Megan. Okay, we have about 7 or 8 minutes for questions. Andy.
Megan, so do you have a meeting every Monday to talk about, you know, what's going to come up on the show on Thursday, or how does that work?
We have a staff meeting every Friday morning. but that's everybody reporting about everything that they're working on. So that includes the newscast, where we'll mention that, but everybody on staff kind of has different shows that they do, so we're all kind of talking about the different content or special projects. Usually it's Greg and I are kind of the 24/7 team on Pierce County News, and so he and I usually check in with each other, or hey, I was able to get this week, and you know, oh, I'm still looking for a guest. Do you think of anything? You know, we touch base with each other a lot because we're the ones cranking out kind of the content and the themes of what that week's show is going to look like. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
One comment about that is try instituting a really quick morning meeting. Just things happen daily, you know. If you have a touch base morning, like news productions, they have a morning and an afternoon meeting every day. So I would just suggest we do something we used to do. We haven't done it recently, but we did something we would call a stand-up, and it's borrowed from software development in the agile technology, where the team gets together, you talk about what you know, what could be coming, and you do it very quickly. Don't let them sit.
Yes.
Just out of curiosity, your support staff, are they employed elsewhere in the city, or are they not freelance?
Everybody like on that workflow list that had the X's on it, only Matt is freelance with us, and he's a contract for a set price hourly. And the rest of them are in that row right there, yeah. So everybody on that list is full-time.
You guys just work at other projects.
So we have three shows total, plus council meetings, plus special projects.
Yeah, Tom?
Brand, you made a really good point on, you know, it's going to vary on what community that you're serving. I think it's a really good point. In Hastings, we have around 20,000. I have a small staff, 2 full-timers and a handful of part-timers. And we used to have a weekly newscast back in the day, but that was all we could do. I mean, it swallowed up all our resources and our staff. And eventually I had to call it off because it was just too much. And so we scratched it and just kind of focused on other original series and other shows. Well, we still did news, but we just kind of did a little story here and there, put it on our, you know, and now social media is really nice. That's Facebook and Twitter, and put them up on there. Question I have is, one thing we just started experimenting doing was putting subtitles in our stories for social media, because as you guys may have heard, like, more people are watching videos without sound. And I'm curious if you guys have started doing that, and you've seen a difference in views and that kind of thing. We haven't done it enough to know if it's making a difference. I'm just curious.
You know, we haven't started doing that. That's actually something I'll take back with me right out. That's something I got from you. We haven't started doing that. So is it accurate? You guys are manually putting the subtitles in?
Right, yeah, so but it's not too much work. My editor says it's not huge, you know, addition to it, but, because, you know, we're 2 minutes, 3 minutes, package still. But, yeah, it seems to be going over well so far.
That's a great idea. Who else is putting subtitles on their social media here? That's awesome. So that's a takeaway for everybody else here. I think that we'll go back and try that and see. We've been really successful with social media, but maybe that'll help us. That's a good point. You know, if you want to watch a video and it's during a meeting, you can watch it with the subtitles. So.
Or even we've seen like taking, if you did a story at the zoo and you've got really great B-roll, you could set it to music for 30 seconds and put some subtitles up about what's happening where it's just set to music. I mean, I see that a lot on like Facebook and stuff too, where you can take some of your content. It's an idea we've thrown around just in casual conversations in the office, but nothing yet.
One quick point about the resources. We get it. You know, I think we're all stretched for resources and we have to do a lot of different things, but we try to figure out a way to turn whatever video we do into a news story so that we can use it use it on our news show in one way or the other. You know, shoot once and we might edit different versions, but every second of video within reason becomes a potential story on our news show. So try to stretch those resources. I'll start with that. We're part of a communications department, so we meet with our public information officers once a week, and they kind of listen to what we think is important. We have connections they don't have with the community, and they understand that, yes, government is part of our community news, but it's just a part. So, but they will inform us sometimes what kind of is coming up that we ought to cover. But then we also hear from the communications director who interfaces with our council members, hey, we are going to do a story about this opening of this brand new warehouse, even though we don't think it's newsworthy. Yeah, we do get that to come down. But we always point out, ultimately, we have to have a watchable show or a watchable segment. What's the point of wasting city resources if you're getting minimal amount of eyeballs? So does that make sense?
And ditto, exact same for us.
So I am the communications director, so I get to pretty much kind of decide what's newsworthy, and I have a pretty good, wow, it just got quiet. That was really cool. I have a lot of flexibility. I know what's a priority for the council, and I know what's newsworthy. So I have a little bit of latitude with that.
About 3 minutes, Dwight?
Yes, so maybe your comment about the 145 is very interesting because we kind of started out as little news flashes, 2, maybe 3 minutes max, and we were, hitting on all of the topics that were important to the city. And we thought, we might want to go ahead and try and do news, and we started doing an extended 15-minute piece, and it didn't really go over well, and we kind of have made the decision now to move back, and it really works well with our social media to move back to the shorter form pieces because first of all they like it, and then secondly it fits in to giving those little quick pieces that people want to see in the day.
And what I would say is that when we kind of look at that 145 time, I'm looking at that as coming back to that time for stories that are no longer than that. Because we're in this weird mix, right, where you got to fill a channel still at the same time you got to fill social media. So we kind of look to fill both of those by doing stories that are going to get closer to staying under that time, and we can break them out, and those go on social media. And the hits that we get on those are much higher than the full show. The full show, you average around 100 or so people. It's pretty minimal. But you look at some of those shorter stories, and the hits are doing quite well.
We talked to that, just not to take too much time. We do something called a spotlight Houston, that when we see something that we really want to focus on and do a longer form piece, we really put a lot of our efforts into that, and then we put it out as a special, and we promote it. We really move people in that direction. So we do a little short piece in social media to really kind of give that its own life.
Because we don't have Nielsen ratings, right? And so the web stats are our best guess as to our viewership, but the viewing habits on a mobile device or on the web are very different, YouTube, than someone who's still sitting at home, who's my parents' age, watching the channel. And so we're still in this weird mix where we are accommodating both right now. There is no, we can still take all those stories and package them into a newscast and help it fill the channel, because we still have to fill that too.
It's nice to have the measurability.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody do any marketing surveys as far as trying to find out exactly how many people, what percentage watch?
We have every couple of years we'll work with Comcast to do random surveys to find out who's watching our newscasts. So I think going back to the demographic shifts, and it's been a few years, but we had 60,000 households in Aurora that that can get our signal, and it's been 3 years since we've done one. We saw that about 5,000 homes were watching us at some point during the week. So that was the best guess we have. But the age of Twitter and Facebook, it's really an interesting shift, because if you get 60,000 people watching one video on Twitter, what does that say? I mean, how do you measure that to the number of households watching? I mean, but that's, you know, the stuff that we've done.
Okay, just time for one more question. Yes.
Yeah, I'm wondering how you guys make the decision of what stories to cover, because I mean, you're running a show that'll go for a week. When do you decide, okay, this is not going to be relevant at the end of the week? You know what I mean?
They usually answer that for you. I mean, like, for example, like before we were getting ready to leave, there's quite a few wildfires in Washington State. Well, by the time we take a hiatus this week and we get back and we start a show working on it on the 18th and 19th, Monday and Tuesday, you know, I just sent an email to the emergency management gal and said, hey, I'll touch base with you on Friday. Let's see what they look like. And it could be a story for us or it might not. But we're going to wait and not cover it, and it's a maybe. So I think a lot of this stuff, timing-wise, you look at the length of, you know, the livability of it, right?
All right, one quick shout out, Dwight, you were asking that question earlier. For those of you who don't know Dwight Williams, he's from the city of Houston. So the fact that he's even here, thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it. And of course, want to thank our speakers today, Todd Barnes, Randy Simpson, and Megan Hutton. Well done, thank you. Time for alcohol, by the way, out there.
Let me know what happens.
Cool.
Thanks for everything. Thanks for moderating. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Good job.
You know, we look like we have a pretty similar show.
Yeah. You know, the half-hour thing is really a demographic thing. You know, the bottom line is people my age and older might watch a half-hour cable show, but we still have both worlds. And we know in the government sector, those people tend to be the active voters, the older folks. So for the next 10 years, we're going to have to do both.
Oh, totally.
But,
I completely agree.
Oh, I'm sure.
Your access to